Welcome to the exciting interview on the topic of mastering your communication skills with Brenden Kumarasamy, who is a communication expert, a speaker, and a public coach, public speaking coach as well. He also owns MasterTalk YouTube channel, which helps people to accelerate their speaking skills and enhance their public speaking as well. So let's not waste the time and welcome Brenden to my show, which I'm hosting first time. And Brenden, welcome to my show, and just let us know what you do and introduce yourself. So share your experience and everything related to you.
Absolutely, Maria. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on the show. It's great to be here. So for me, the journey started in college. I went to business school. And funny enough, I studied what you're doing for a living today, which is accounting. And I thought I was going to be an accountant like you, but then in that journey, I started doing these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were playing rugby or cricket or some other sport you probably wouldn't see me playing, I did presentations competitively, Maria, and that's how I learned how to speak. But then as I got older, I started coaching the other students with their case competitions because I wanted to see them win. And
Mhm.
I accidentally developed a skill in helping other people communicate ideas effectively. And that's what led to Master Talk because I felt, nobody's sharing this information for free. So I started making videos, and then a few years later, it turned to something I never could have imagined.
That's great, Brandon. That's really great. Tell me how storytelling is important in your communication skills and how it affects your career as well.
Absolutely, Maria. Storytelling is such an important piece, but the way I always like to see it is that communication is like juggling 18 balls at the same time, right? One of those balls is smiling, one of them's eye contact, one of them's body language, and storytelling is one of those 18 balls. But I always like to say with stories is that people focus too much on the story, but not enough on the outcome. We always have a friend that keeps rambling about their day. They come up to us and they say, "Hey, Maria, Brent, I want to tell you about my day." And they tell you a story and you're like, where is this going? Like, when is this going to end? Because they've been talking for 10 to 15 minutes and it just doesn't end.
Yeah.
That's why every great story needs to start with an outcome. What is the goal of this conversation? What is the goal of this presentation? And then
Mhm.
from that goal, you tell a story that helps you achieve it. And one example of that is my outcome, which is to inspire everyone to be a great speaker. So, how do I do it? I tell the story around my left arm and how it's crooked. I tell the story around how I studied accounting. I tell the story around me speaking French my whole life. So anyone can be a great speaker. So that's the key. You got to align the story with the outcome.
Exactly. I really agree with you, Brendan, on this. And tell me about how we can improve our communication skills on a personal and on a workplace success as well. For you can say we are in a setting of remote working conditions. So tell me about how we can improve our personality, our tone of voice, our you can say our skills on conducting meetings as well. And what are the strategies? What are the ways we can do better in a remote setting?
Absolutely, Maria. So for me, it's all about saying juggling one ball at a time,
Hmm.
right? So one of them's meetings, one of them's storytelling, one's body language. So for me, the question has become, what are the three easiest balls that we could start with? And let's just get started with the first one. Then I could share the other ones if you want. But the first one is really about saying, the random word exercise. Pick a random word like golf, like home, like wife, like suit, like flower, and create random presentations out of thin air. And this serves two main purposes, Maria. The first one is it helps us deal with uncertainty. Because guess what? Of nonsense, you could make sense out of anything. And that's really the magic. So I always encourage people to do this throughout the day, whether it's when they're walking their dog, when they're in their shower, with their family. Just get the exercise done a few times a day, and you'll get really good after 30 days.
That's really good technique, Brandon. And tell me about how can people become better listeners? Because you have said earlier that people just go on and on and on and doesn't incorporate the words of others. How can people become a better listener? Because it's a very effective way to listen first and then speak later. It's one of the crucial component of his communication skill.
Absolutely, Maria. And honestly, it's a skill I'm still working on, so we're all getting better at it. But I would say one tip, because the problem with listening is like we all know it's important, but we don't really know how to practice it. Because we go, yeah, listening, you got two ears, one mouth for a reason. You got to listen twice as much as you speak, but how do you get better at it? So I'll give you a
Hmm.
strategy I teach my CEO clients that everyone can implement, and it's called the goals call. So the goals call is really simple. You sit down with one person that you really love in your life. It could be a friend, a colleague, just somebody in your life that you really appreciate. And what you do for 45 minutes is you listen to them in this way. You start the call by going, what are your top three goals for the year? And why are those three goals important to you? So that person will spend 2 to 3 minutes just writing down all of their goals. So, like, I want to lose weight. I want to grow my business. I want to make more money.
Hmm.
And then they'll tell you where it's important. But you could only do three things on that call. Number one, you are not allowed to give advice. You
Hmm.
are not allowed to coach that person. That's the first rule.
Hmm.
The second rule is you're only allowed to restate. So let's say you gave me your top three goals and you told me why those goals are important to you. I'm allowed to say, okay, Maria, this is what I heard, your top three goals. This is why it's important to you. Did I get that correctly? And then you'll go, oh, yeah, Brent, I want you to talk about this too. And you'll say more things. And the
Hmm.
last rule is that you could only ask questions during the entire 45 minutes of the call. So let's say somebody goes, I want to make more money. I'll say, well, how much money do you have now? How much money do you want to make next year? How do you want to make that money? So I'm only allowed to ask questions. If you do that with 10 different people, Maria, your
Hmm.
listening skills will skyrocket.
That is so important strategy, Brandon, and I really agree with you. My next question is how can individual improve their non-verbal communication? Because this is important as well, such as body language and the tone of voice to enhance their overall communication skills. So how can we improve these things as well, which are crucial component?
Absolutely. The voice, right? That's what you're asking.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure, Maria. So what I would say around the voice
Mhm.
is it's a little bit more complicated. I think the most important thing for people is are we booking 15 minutes every day to do the random word exercise? Because the problem with information, Maria, is if we don't take action on it, it just stays information. And with the voice, what happens is it's a little bit more complicated. So I'm happy to explain the theory, but the most important thing is are we booking time in our calendar to do the random word exercise? In
Mhm.
terms of the voice, there's three main types of voice: high tones, mid tones, and low tones. So mid is just how we normally speak. So how you're speaking right now is your
Exactly.
normal speaking voice.
Mhm.
High tones is 20% higher, not 100% or you're yelling, 20% higher than how we normally speak.
Yeah,
And low vocal tones is 20% lower.
to the
So
normal.
all
Yeah.
for low. So like we have mid, so this is my mid, this is my high, and this
Mhm.
is my low. So those are the three types of tones.
Mhm.
So the only thing people need to understand about this, Maria, because I know it's getting a little complicated here,
Mhm.
is that the best speakers in the world use all three tones. So example would be John loves apples. So notice how I used all of those tones. So that's the secret.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Brendan, how can we improve personal and workplace success if we improve our communication skills? How is it very crucial to increase our, you can say, vocabulary or anything which support our communication style in order to support our personal and workplace success? So, how do you see that?
For sure, Maria. So I was like taking the bigger picture, which is what's the end goal? So let's say when I'm coaching a manager or a director,
Mhm.
I'll say, who do you want to be in a decade? They'll say, oh, I want to be a CEO. I want to be an SVP. I want to be this person.
Mhm.
So my question is always, how do we speak like an SVP today? How do we speak like a CEO today? So that's the bigger picture, which sure, there's articulation, so there's vocabulary, but the bigger picture is the person that we want to become. Are we already communicating like that person? That's
Mhm.
the big frame. So the strategy becomes for 15 minutes every week, just 15 minutes, go on YouTube. It's free. and just look up somebody who has the job that you want. So if your goal is to be the chief financial officer of a $500 million company, watch them give an interview
Mhm.
while you're eating lunch and just watch them and go, what are they doing right that I'm missing in my communication? Like, and one example of that, CFOs, they don't go, when they're talking, right? They're really straight. So you go, okay, I need to fix that. So that's an example of what to do.
I did follow your advice as well as to we can watch as many podcasts, as many motivational videos as possible, and we should follow our favorite personalities on YouTube, LinkedIn, anywhere. We should follow them, the style they carry, and everything related to them. Just like I follow Dan Locke, and my favorite speaker is you can say Michelle Obama and Barack Obama as well. So they are the ones I follow daily, and yeah, it helps me a lot as well. So Brandon, my next question is, what are the common challenges people face when trying to improve their communication skills, and how can they overcome these challenges as well?
Absolutely, Maria. A lot of people think fear is the greatest challenge. I disagree. I think structure is the greatest challenge, and I'll tell you why. The reason is because think of everything we've accomplished in our life, Maria.
Hmm.
Everything. Like, and the audience too listening to this. Whether it's getting a job, whether it's getting married, having kids, asking somebody out on a date, I don't know, going to a college, applying for something, everything we've done that's meaningful in our life, did we do it with zero fear? Of course not,
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
Everything, right? Like when you went to CPA school, something, right? So everything we do involves fear. So why do we do it? We do it because the motivation exceeds the fear. The
Exactly.
motivation exceeds the fear.
Exactly.
But we're not having that same conversation with our communication. We just say, oh, we're scared, so let me just not do it. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Because or else we would have never gotten that job. We wouldn't have gotten that person. We wouldn't have gotten married. We wouldn't have gotten those kids. We wouldn't have gone to college. We wouldn't have gotten that job.
Mhm.
So how do we apply this? The problem is lack of motivation. Where is the motivation to actually get better at speaking? That's why the question for me to ask your audience to think about is how would your life change if you were an exceptional communicator? Start to reflect on that question so you have motivation. And then the other piece to that is structure, which is when you want to be more fit. Let's say you want to go to a gym and get more healthier. Sure, you could do calorie counting. Sure, you could look at really specific diet plans, but the trainer is just going to look at you and say, are you walking 15 minutes a day? And then you go, well, no, why does that matter? Of course it matters. That's the first
Yeah.
step. So that's what's
Exactly.
missing in communication. I bring that to the industry.
Exactly, and I think people think that other people will judge them because how they speak or their vocabulary style or anything like that. I was one of them. I just got nervous in the meetings, and generally to interact with people as well. So when I forgot these things, I started doing better in my career and in my personal relationships as well. I just get rid of all these habits of what people will say when I talk or everything. I just did my own work, and I am doing better by following your advices and following the videos as well. Yeah. So my
That's great.
next question, Brendan, is, can you provide any tips or techniques for communicating with difficulty or challenging individuals? Like, we have so many challenging personalities in workplace or in personal lives. So how can we better communicate with them, knowing that they are a challenging personality?
For sure, Maria. Here's what I always start with that when I get that question. I always start with, are we improving the way we're communicating with the people we already love? Because the problem with most of us is we suck both ways. Like we suck at communicating with the person that we have difficulty speaking with,
Mhm.
but we're also bad at communicating with the person we actually care about. So
Exactly.
for me, the question is start easy. Why do we need to go straight over to the difficult conversation? Sure, I've had clients in my career I didn't like working with. It happens, right? You misfire, you hired the wrong person, you go, oh my God, why am I working with this person? That happens. That's okay.
Exactly.
But it starts with, am I improving the relationship with my sister first? Am I
Hmm.
improving the relationship with my mother first? Because those people I can't change. Like I can't switch for somebody else.
Exactly.
So for me, where it starts with is how do we improve the relationships with the people we already love? So there's two strategies I'll teach you. The
Mhm.
first one is called relationship visioning. So what you do, and I did this when I was 15 or something with my mom, because we used to argue all the time. So I took a piece of paper. I didn't do it as perfectly as I teach it now, but you get the idea. And I just wrote down, what do I want my relationship with my mother to look like? Not what the relationship is now, but do I want to always fight with her? Do I always wanted to get in arguments with her? No, right? So that relationship visioning, which was a calm, peaceful relationship that we have now, right? We haven't argued in over 10 years. But because of that, it changes the way I show up to the relationship. So that's the first thing is make a list of the three people you care about the most in your life that you really want to improve your relationship with them and do that relationship visioning exercise. And then trust me, you'll be a lot more calm in those interactions. And learning that will help you a lot better with people that you actually really hate at work and you have trouble dealing with.
Exactly. Some are very problematic personalities. We daily interact with them, and we don't know how to have a conversation with them. So that's the main concern we professionals are having these days as to how we can better interact with the problematic personalities at workplace. And you are right. Start with easy and just do easy conversation first. Do not just overflow your vocabulary and everything which you know already. So, Brenden, my next question is how can people continue to develop and refine their communication skills over time? And what resources do you recommend which can help them in improving their communication style or skills?
For sure, Maria. For me, it's always going back to the foundations, right? So
Mhm.
if we go to the great basketball players, it wasn't the fact that Michael Jordan knew how to do cool trick shots or Kobe Bryant was doing some magical tricks. They just kept dribbling the ball. They kept doing the free throws. It's the fundamentals, right? So the
Exactly.
reason I'm good at speaking is not because I'm special. It's because I've done 600 interviews. That's why I'm really good at this,
Exactly.
right?
Practice makes
The
man perfect. That's
absolutely.
analogy. Yeah.
Right, but the other piece, which is you're right, Maria, but the other part of that is practicing in the right way. So don't just do a
Mhm.
bunch of random things. Just say, am I getting to 100 random words? Am I
Mhm.
getting to 100 video messages? Which I made one this morning. You just pick three people that you love the most in your life and you send them a little 20-second video message to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Don't even worry about the next exercise. You shouldn't even touch the next exercise until you've done the random word exercise 100 times. That's the first step, right? And that's really the key.
That's the fundamental. Yeah, I 100% agreed with you. And in your experience, what are some of the most common misconceptions or myths you can say about communication skills, and how can people overcome those misconceptions to become better communicators or presenters?
I would say the biggest one is that for you to be successful around speaking, you need to have zero fear. I think that's BS. That doesn't make any sense. Because there's so many situations in my life where I'm still scared, right? That where I'm not perfect. Like if me and you were having lunch, right? And let's say Karachi or something. Me and you're
Yeah,
having lunch, and Elon Musk calls me, and he goes, "Hey, Brendan, I really like your YouTube channel. I like the intro you did with Maria. Can you coach me? I'll pay you $3 million." Would I be nervous? Yeah, I would
exactly.
be. Of
100%. I would
course.
nervous as well. I would got nervous
Yeah.
as well.
Right. But that's really the key, right? Is like even if I've already coached like some very prominent people, I'm really grateful for all the success I've had very early. I'm still nervous too. So it's the biggest misconception is like do the thing scared anyways, because that's what you did with every other thing you learned. Like when you were a baby and you started walking for the first time, you didn't sit down and go, oh man, I don't think I can walk. I really worry what my dad's gonna think of me and my mom's. No, you just got up and you kept going,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And
They
that's
keep
really the
going.
key.
They keep going. They do their work. They don't think about anyone else like we grown-ups do. And okay, that was a great one, Brandon. And what advice do you have for people for who struggle with public speaking or just daily communication? Just they just got nervous with interacting with people. So how can they overcome this fear?
For sure. I would say for interacting with people, Maria, I have a cool strategy that requires zero ability to go outside and talk to people. I call it the value list. All you have to do, make a list of five people you really care about in your life that are already your friends, that give you a lot of value. And then what you do is just add more value to them. Do the goals call with them, send them video messages, introduce them to your best people, and then ask them to introduce you to their people. That's the best way to network. Like today, I rarely take cold coffee calls. Like I only take introduction calls if one of my friends is saying, "Hey, you need to talk to this person," because I know that person's going to be amazing. And that's really the secret.
That's amazing. Brenden, I also, that's my last question, that how do communication skills impact leadership, and what skills do effective leaders possess when it comes to communication?
For sure, Maria. Communication is the language of leadership. If you want to be a great leader, communication is greatly correlated with that success because as you move up in a company, you lead bigger and bigger teams. So if you're leading a team of 300 people, you just can't talk to everyone individually anymore. So you need to know how to communicate so you can present to all 300 people at the same time. So you can send a video that goes out to all of those people. And it's your job as a leader to get really good at all areas so that you can manage people at the top. It's really difficult to lead large scale teams if you don't know how to speak properly, if you don't know how to communicate. So that's why I would encourage people listening to this who want to be leaders in the organizations to start communicating like them right now. Even if you're an entry level employee, just start communicating. That was my mindset. That's why I coach people double my age because I pictured myself, visualized myself like them today so that they trust me with their transformation.
Exactly. And this strategy helped me a lot as well in my career, in my personal relationships. So, yeah, this is really effective if you follow it regularly on a daily basis. And any last words, Brendan, which you like to advise to people who are seeing us?
For sure, Maria. Well, first of all, you did such a great job at this interview. Thanks for having me. That would be my one of my thoughts. And the other thought is don't forget about the question. How would your life change if
Mhm.
you were an exceptional communicator? Really reflect on that. Because it's not just about money or getting a job. It's about showing up as a better mother for our children. It's about showing up as a better friend for the people in our life, as a better human being to every stranger that we interact with. Communication is about making our life better. That's why I call it the accelerant of dreams. So really start thinking about how can I get better at this and how can I get motivated to get better as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brandon, for your time, your efforts, and all the valuable advice which you have given in my first show. And these unique strategies and tips and techniques help us really in our career and professional life as well. And I do hope that we collaborate more in future and to be in a very fruitful communication as well. So thank you so much, Brandon. That was really nice session with you, and I hope to do more videos with you in future. And yeah, that's all about it.
Thanks,
Thank
Maria.
you.